What is up? I am Sid Alexandria, and today we are going to be talking about divisional charts in astrology. So, in case you haven't heard, in astrology, your D1 divisional 1 chart is your natal chart. Whether you are using Western, tropical, Vedic, sidereal, or draconic astrology, or another form of astrology, because there are infinite forms of astrology, okay? Astrology is just us discovering what the stars and planets and celestial points and bodies and asteroids and all of that mean for us here on Earth, okay? It's humans interpreting the cosmos. That's astrology. So we can actually take a birth chart, a natal chart, and break it up into smaller divisions, and that's what a divisional chart is. So your regular birth chart, let's just say we're looking at your sidereal Vedic birth chart, because that is what divisional charts are most commonly associated with, is Vedic, Indian, Hindu astrology, Yodish, okay? Lots of different names for the same thing. So that is your D1 chart, just your regular sidereal birth chart if we're looking at your sidereal astrology. That's your D1 chart. That means one division. Yes, we have, the 12 houses, the 12 zodiac signs, or 13 if you're into that. That's just your number one birth chart, right? And that really, in my opinion, tells the most about you, because boom, there it is. That's where the stars are. That's where your celestial bodies are when you're born, right? So there's also these other divisions that we are going to be getting into. So we have division 1 all the way through infinite possibilities, really, because divisional charts, just like astrology in general, is us interpreting things. But even more so with divisional charts, because we saw a trend, right? That's how divisional charts came to be, is people were like, what if we break this down into multiple divisions? What if we only focus on the sun and moon? What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we break this piece into lots of smaller pieces, and then wherever you fall in this bigger piece, there's a smaller portion, right? That's what divisional charts are. I'm going to show this huge picture on the screen here. I'm going to draw it and insert it right here for you guys to look at, with all the divisions that we are going to be talking about later in this video. Feast your eyes on this beauty. Okay, let me explain. So, this inner circle right here, there's 12 portions. Some are kind of tiny because I'm not a computer, I'm a human. Those are the 12 zodiac signs, and this tiny little circle in here, this middle circle, that's D1, 12 zodiac signs. And then these with the little dots on some of them, that is D2. The dots are the one ruled by the sun, non-dots are the moon, because in D2 we only use Leo and Cancer, the sign of the sun and the moon, but there's 2 divisions. So instead of 12, there's 24, okay? And this is the closest we get to nakshatras, which we're not going to talk about in this video. We'll talk about in the next video, because there's 27 nakshatras, there's 24 possibilities in here, but the difference is there's 2 zodiac signs instead of 12 or 27 nakshatras. So that's D1, this is D2 right here. And then these are your decans. This is D3. D3 is quite literally decans. For example, this is right here, this is Aries, okay? So the fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sag. I have a video on decans and dwads, so we're not gonna get into that, but D3, if say your sun's in Aries and you want to look at the decan of that, it's going to be in one of the fire signs. Same with all the other signs, it's like earth or air or fire. Okay, and then we have D4. I didn't label them because I wasn't completely sure on how they're labeled. Usually it all starts, like this is the Aries portion of the chart right here. So usually it starts with Aries, as you can see, but that's D4. So there's 4 signs within that 12th, okay? That's why this chart looks like this. I did it literal, okay? So when we get to D60, there's 60 things in this space of that 1/12 sliver, okay? So then we have D30, which is really like D5, which we'll get into the meanings of all of these after, but there's 5 zodiac signs, okay? And these are actually not equally divided. D30/D5 is where it gets a little funky. And then we have D7, that's the next one right here. D9, which is very commonly used. And then we have D10. And then D12, which is dwads. D12, 12 signs within this one sliver of this one zodiac sign. Like let's say of Aries, there's the 12 zodiac signs starting with Aries and it goes all the way to Pisces. The next one in Taurus, it starts with Taurus, goes all the way to Aries. Again, we go right back around. I have a video on decans and dwads. I'll leave it in the description. And then we have D16, so there's 16 signs in here. Then D20, D24, D27, D30 is the D5, so it's up there. And then we have D40, D45, and then this outer ring is D60. So that's all the divisional, well, some of the divisional charts, because there's a ton. You can keep on inventing them, you know. So appreciate this, because this took me a few hours. So we are going to get into the meaning of these charts, which each divisional chart represents and why you would use them in just a second. But I wanted to show you guys my charts for all of these divisional charts so you can see how truly different each one of them is. These are all my charts, all with the same 11/22/01 birthday at my time of birth. And as you can see, my celestial bodies are moving around quite a bit, okay? So now, after you guys look at this, we will get into what all of these mean. And if you want to ever come back and fast forward, there is timestamps in the description of this video. Now that you've seen that glorious chart, take a screenshot, credit me if you share it, appreciate it, because it took me a while. Let's get into these divisional charts. So I'm not going to try to pronounce the actual names, I'm just going to put them up on the screen. Let's get into it. D2 originated in Greece and actually only uses the sun and moon. Okay, so the sign of Leo and Cancer. All of your planets in this divisional chart are either going to be in Leo or Cancer, okay? Because this chart looks at, is this planet more in resonance with sun or moon energy? All right, and then D3 originated in Egypt and is all about how you are as a peer, as a sibling, as a friend, how you express yourself, really. This chart is about expression. So if you're looking more into just kind of Mercury energy, how you express yourself, how you communicate, all of that, this chart will tell more about. Your D4 chart is all about like property and fortune, like what kind of property will you have. It tells about money and career a little bit, but mainly like your assets, okay? A little bit of like home life, but mainly like your material assets is D4, all about that. And then D5, there's not really like a D5. There is, but more commonly people use a d30, which really has like 5 divisions, so I'm not sure why they call it a d30. I'm sure there's a reason, but I think it would make more sense if we called it a d5, but that's just my opinion. So if you want to learn about d5, fast forward to d30 because we're not going to be talking about a d5. Go to d30. Okay, and then d7 is a lot about romance and love, okay? Which makes sense because these correlate a lot to the houses, these earlier divisions, right? You know, 2, 3, 4, even 30 for 5 and 7. So like your 7th house, close to your descendant, your 7th house tells about partners, what you admire in others, your potential mate or life partner if you choose to have one, right? Or just the things we admire in others. So your D7 chart has lots of 7th house energy. It's about sex and romance and love and can be about children. You can tell a lot about your fertility with the D7 chart as well. Sex drive, fertility, childbearing, and of course the romance. So your D9 chart originated in India, and this is probably the most commonly used divisional chart, okay? Because it tells a lot about you. So this is why it's most commonly used. Of course, also the fact that it originated in India, which is where Vedic Indian Hindu astrology originated. So the D9 chart is about, of course, 9th house energy, but it's a lot about your divisional 7 chart and your divisional 10 chart combined, if you ask me, if that makes sense. Because it's about really your life in general, like your life path. This is why it's most commonly used, because it tells a lot about your marriage life if you're gonna get married, but more so the duties and like responsibilities of having a family. So it can tell about children, fertility possibly, or just the duty of having children. You know, what your duties and responsibilities in life are, and of course in relationships, because that's a big part of life. If you have a family, that's your responsibility. So you can get a good grasp of if someone is going to be like a family person, or if someone is just kind of gonna be solo, doing their own thing. So D9 just gives lots of overall energies about your life potential, life path, and life responsibilities in marriage, solo, mom, dad vibes, what have you. It can also tell about philosophy and esoteric knowledge and rebirth energy, okay? That's why D9 is so important, because it breaks down all of this good stuff about you. And then your D10 chart is all about work, all about career, work, responsibilities, 10th house, midheaven energy. The D12 chart originated in Babylonia and is all about unconscious 12th house energy, but also your past lives. So your karma, your purpose, really, why you do things, this unconscious energy surrounding you because of what's been ingrained in you in past lives. It also tells a lot about traumas that have been passed down from your parents, grandparents, and what could potentially be passed down to your children from you. But mainly just that unconscious, like, family legacy and your own soul's legacy from past lives. It also is like the same thing as dwads, because dwads are like a 12th division from a zodiac sign. There's decans and dwads, and I have a video on that if you want to go check that out as well. It's in my astrology playlist that's linked in this description of the video. So the D16 chart is a lot like the D4 chart in the sense that it has 4th house energy. But the D16 chart actually has more 4th house energy than the D4 chart. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the D4 chart has some 2nd house energy because it is about material possessions mainly, and property and fortune and things like that. But it also does have some 4th house vibes. But the D16 chart is really about comfort as well as property and some material things, but it's more about the comfort of those material things and also some past life energy. There's lots in the D16 chart. I think it's very mystical and overall just has 4th house energy. How your 4th house kind of interacts with the rest of your chart is how I would kind of explain the D16 chart, if that makes sense. It's about your home life, what brings you comfort, how you are when you're alone, but just really your home life, because your home is your comfort. And it can also be about traveling too. Your D20 chart is all about spirituality, okay? It is like an unconscious cut of yourself, if that makes sense. Your religion, your spirituality, your beliefs. It's like a deep dive, okay? And then the D24 chart is about academic achievements, education, knowledge, all of that, okay? School, how you do in school, really. Yeah, D24 is just a lot about education, and it can tell a bit about your intelligence, but don't take it too personally, because it really is more so about how you do in school, because you can be a very smart person and not have super smart seeming placements in the D24 chart, so don't let it be like a tell-all, okay? It just shows if you are book smart, because you could be street smart or spiritually smart, and it won't really show in your D24 chart, as well as all of these other charts, okay? So don't take any of it super personally, especially as we get into these larger numbers, smaller divisions, right? Right. The D27 chart is all about strengths and weaknesses and however you want to interpret that, okay? It's just a more unconscious version of yourself. All right, now for the D30 chart, aka the D5 chart, because really there's 5 divisions, okay? It's based off of the 5 main planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. It's not based off of the signs, really. We're breaking things into these 5 categories of the 5 main planets. All right, so the D30 chart was found in Babylonia. It was found in Hellenistic astrology. It's well over 2,000 years old. And this isn't broken up into even parts either, okay? Because like I said, is it Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars energy, and the divisions aren't quite equal. Now, what is this chart about? Why would you use this chart? Mainly for health reasons. So if you're looking at just your regular D1 chart and you're like, that could be a potential health issue, look at your D30 chart and that will give you a more clear answer, because it's about like restrictions on yourself. It can tell about mental health as well as physical health, because people will see correlations and then they'll say this is a health issue, yada yada yada. You can also make your own correlations and figure things out for yourself, because that's what astrology is. So even if you do have a bad placement in your D30 chart and you're like, wow, is that a health issue? Use your own interpretation, figure that out yourself. Don't just see this and then cause a health issue, okay? I'm gonna do a video on why astrology is great, but it's also kind of harmful. because of things like this, when people see their D30 chart and they create health issues that they wouldn't have had if they didn't look at it and give power to it. That was a little side note, okay? Anyways, the D30 chart is also just about like restrictions you place on yourself, which could be considered mental health, boundaries, limitations. It can say like if you were born into poverty, things like this, restrictions like that. Okay. The D40 chart. This is where we are getting into territory. You know what I mean? Because you need to know like the minute you were born, and then from here down to these larger numbers, smaller divisions, you need to know the second you were born. I do not know anyone that knows the second they were born. Okay, the D40 chart, I don't think you always need to put in the seconds, but once we get into these other higher numbers, smaller divisions, you do need the seconds, and it does matter, which is like, okay. So the D40 is all about luckiness or unluckiness, like how lucky you are, okay? A very unconscious, it could be conscious energy, but usually it's like this unconscious energy within you which makes you lucky or unlucky. That's what D40 is about. The D45 chart really isn't used that much, but it apparently can tell about your dad's side of the family, your paternal legacy, okay? Someone saw a correlation and they created a divisional chart known as the D45 chart. Someone did it. And you do need to know, I believe, the second you were born to get this chart, and it does matter. So whether or not this is accurate, I often question, but there's the info. So the D60 chart, this is as far as we're gonna take this ride, okay? Because there's like the D300 chart, like there's a crazy amount of length that this can go, and we're not gonna take it farther than it needs to be taken. So D60, 60 divisions in this small little space, okay? You need to know the second you were born to get this chart, and it is just more deeper energy about you, a more deeper slice of you, okay? And this is used for like reverse engineering your birth time, like rectifying birth times. So if you don't know the time you were born, but you tell an astrologer a lot about yourself, they can say, hey, based on the info you gave me, based on you, based on maybe you, like someone knows a person personally, they're like, this is probably the time you were born, or either this time or this time, which resonates with you more. It's for rectifying birth times because it gets so precise. So, oh, you don't know the second you were born? Let's figure it out with the D60 chart. Stuff like that. Or, oh, you don't know the time at all, but you know you're born on this day. Or your mom doesn't know if you were born on May 3rd or 4th or something like that. You know, let's figure it out with the D60. So that's what that's used for. And there are further divisions, which we're not going to get into because one, I question the accuracy once we get this far, and also they're just not very commonly used, and there's, like I said in the beginning, infinite. So if you want to create your own divisional chart, go ahead and do so, because that's what astrology is all about. It's finding correlations, finding patterns, analyzing them, researching them, understanding them. You could live your whole life solely based on researching astrology, and there would still be more to discover. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna put my pretty picture back up on the screen now. Appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.